Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another week of Signed the Traitors. We are brought to you by Silent Podcasts, where we are anything but silent, and we are a podcast that is recapping all things Traitors Canada. I'm your host, Katie, and I'm here with Javier, my co-host. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Hi, Katie. I'm doing great. I am excited to talk this episode. I feel like we got some good. The roundtable was pretty good for me, so I'm very excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I mean, I personally had a lot of fun watching this episode. I didn't even skip through the challenge, which I usually do. So I could talk about it all. I'm excited to jump in. As a quick recap, last week where we left off, the traitors murdered Erica and voted out Colin. So we no longer have Erica and Colin with us. And Colin, of course, ended up being a faithful. Donna, we also saw having a little bit of a meltdown, but she was a little quieter this episode for us. Unfortunately, I was ready for more meltdown from Donna. And we were left on a cliffhanger between Trevon, Mickey, and Nazila as the victim number 2 of the murderers. So we open up at breakfast. What are your thoughts overall on this breakfast? I think we got a lot of action toward the end of it, but immediately Mickey walked in, so we knew Mickey did not get murdered.
Yeah. I enjoyed this breakfast. I think for me the funniest thing was how right away when Fierce comes in, Fierce is just already talking about Kevin.
Oh my God, already, yes.
Where's Kevin? I hope he's alive. And listen, I'm gonna say it. I don't know how Kevin gets all the gays on his side and all these reality TV shows. He's done it on both of his Big Brother season. Now he has it in Traitors. Kevin be finessing, and good for him.
I guess so.
Fierce seems like she will fall on the sword for Kevin. So good for Kevin on that play. But yeah, no, I was excited to see who they killed. I'm glad it wasn't Mickey because we talked about this last week. You know, we wouldn't want to see like all the reality people go out. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And I also noticed Fierce immediately saying that Mickey was a traitor. And I was like, okay, Fierce is here to like just be messy. And I love it. And we even saw later, like Fierce was saying he would defend, I forget who, but saying like, oh no, if you're a traitor, like I'll defend you. Just like come find me. So Fierce is giving good energy. I love it. Before we get into who actually got murdered, there's like a little bit of chatter. Mai is saying that she can't rule it out anybody. But there's chatter about, oh, this is who it was actually that Fierce said they would defend. Mai was like, if my name comes up, I want you guys to defend me. And I feel like we see these alliances forming a little bit at the breakfast, which is interesting because they don't know if there's a traitor in the room or not, but they're kind of just like openly having these conversations about like who they love and who they're going to defend, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it was weird to see that conversation so openly. You know, I feel like conversations usually happen on the side, but I guess these people really trust each other.
I guess so. I don't know. There's a lot of mess this episode. I did take a note. We got a shout out to Magic Mike. When he walked in the room, someone was like, Magic Mike. And I really thought we coined that nickname, but I guess they were calling him Magic Mike in the house, which I was kind of like, okay, I guess we're on the same page. Not the most original nickname, I understand. But I did take a note about Fierce loving Kevin. And Kevin immediately is like, Melissa B's a traitor. Kevin is still on it. He's still pushing Melissa B the second she walks in. He's like, if she walks in, we have to watch her reaction. And they are all over Melissa B. They are watching every move that she makes. They are really just over the top on Melissa B. And they happen to be right. But Fierce does say it's the worst acting job they've ever seen in their life when Melissa B walks through the door. So she comes in last, and we find out that Nazila is the murdered house guest, I guess, or murdered contestant. But what did you think about Melissa's reaction here? Do you think that she did a good job when she walked in the room? Did you overanalyze anything that she did? Because a lot of heat came on her from this this reaction when she walked in the door.
I mean, I feel like I didn't see her do anything particularly weird. Like if I were in that room, I probably would not have like essentially clocked that like, oh, Melissa came in and she's acting very weird. However, with the build-up, like the fact that her name has been thrown out so much up until this point, maybe my eyes would be more on Melissa as well. But no, I didn't really notice anything out of the ordinary that Melissa was doing. So I don't know. For me, it wasn't. I didn't notice anything. Did you?
No, I really didn't either. But I noticed that she did say in a confessional after the breakfast that she was happy that she was the person who came in last. And I think that I don't
Good for
know
her.
if they get to choose or not, but that to me was some really terrible strategy if she did get to choose because she already knew her name was out there. So why be the lone person that walks in so everybody's focus is on you
Yes.
and only you instead
Hmm.
of coming in with a group of people so you don't have to be the one that reacts as
Hmm.
knowing you're the last safe person and you can just fade into the background when four other people walk in the room and everybody's attention is going to be all over the place and not just solely focused on you.
Yeah, I agree. That was just. I mean, I'm being honest. I don't. There's multiple times in the episode where Melissa. I'm just like, Melissa, what is this
Yeah, she
game?
lost me here. Yeah,
Yeah.
she lost me.
And then like that confessional, in the confessional you're honest, right? So the fact that you said that just shows to me that your game like know-how is not very it's not up to par and spoiler alert, what happens to her at the end of the episode, it kind of was she kind of earned it. Like she was not playing a good
She
game in
did.
my opinion.
It was her time, I think. I mean, we see that also Crystal thinks that she is a traitor. She
Hmm.
and Crystal was close with her. She says, it's really bad acting. Everybody clocks Melissa's
Yeah,
acting here.
right away.
So it's pretty bad stuff by Melissa. And then even after the breakfast, she's like all over the place. She's having conversations with Trevon and others in the group, and she's saying things like, "Well, I noticed because I was on the team that did poorly on the challenge. Like I thought I was going to go." And everybody was like, "Why would they take that into consideration? Like who cares?" And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Why are you spilling the strategy that you guys talked about last night? Like no one
Yeah.
else is thinking that way. You guys should stop talking about like she should stop talking about it." I don't know. She seemed to have a lot of faith in her acting skills, but clearly nobody else did.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the whole concept of, targeting people for doing poorly in the challenges. I feel like we talked about this in Trader US 1 and we talked
Yep.
about this a little bit last week. But do you think that's a good strategy to go with? Especially, at least for me in this case, um, the losing team here had two traders in it. So I don't know if that would be the
Right.
best strategy to go for. But what were your thoughts when I think Kuzi was actually the one who pitched it in the traders meeting? How do you feel about that strategy?
I'm kind of split on it. I feel like at least it makes the challenges more meaningful to watch because if they are
Mhm.
going to go after people who aren't doing well in challenges, anybody could vote those people out, right? It doesn't mean that like it's the people on the blue team. I mean, the next challenge in this one is an individual challenge, not individual, but it's like a main group challenge. So it's like everybody's
Mhm.
individual performance contributes equally instead of like one team kind of like holding everybody up. But at the same time, I mean, I think it's only going to last a week or two because there's going to be a ton of other reasons to murder somebody. I think maybe
Yeah.
week one, it's fine. You don't really have a good reason to pinpoint anybody yet. But I think with Melissa kind of putting it out there, I don't think that was a good strategy because then people are going to be watching everybody that does poorly in the challenge. And if the traitors do poorly in the challenge and they're not voted out, then it's going to be pretty obvious who they are.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I
no,
think Kuzi kind of said that too, right? She's like, I need to contribute. I don't want to be one that's like
yeah, she
dragging
did.
behind. And she did end up contributing, but like, what if she didn't?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, yeah, at the beginning of the season, it's very easy to, you're looking for any reason to, want to target someone. So I guess in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, you're right. It might be a good strategy, but yeah, I agree with you. I think, especially after this roundtable, I think from this roundtable forward, like multiple names are out now, multiple suspicions are multiple people. So I think once we get to the roundtable, we'll discuss a bit more there. But I think moving forward, that's probably not going to be the strategy, even though they said that would be a good strategy. I think there is just so much traction on multiple people now. So I'm like,
Yep.
I feel like that's going to be the strategy moving forward.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think so too. I think for like week one or two, fine. But if that just like continues
Hmm.
to be the trend moving forward, it's just not the best. We do get a couple more tidbits before the challenge. We do hear Trevon say that he thinks Kevin is a traitor,
Hmm.
which is interesting. And Trevon, I said it last week, you're giving me Quentin and Andy vibes, and you're still giving me Quentin and Andy vibes. You're loud and
Yes.
wrong, Trevon. And especially at the round table, you were just loud and
Hmm.
wrong.
Hmm.
So I think my prediction of the Quentin Andy vibe from Trevon is kind of proven to be true, at least at this point. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, you clocked that right away. And I
Yes.
wrote that. I wrote that in my note because during the roundtable, I was like, this is just not it.
Yeah, it started here and I was like, uh-oh, Trevon, don't do this. And then at the round table, I was like, oh no, he's proven me right. Melissa also said she wanted to win the money so she could go to Disney, which I was like, do you think people care? Like, I don't know. That was weird to me.
Okay,
I'm
yes,
like,
I wanted to
ma'am,
talk about that. She
yeah,
started like, but she was like boohoo crying.
bawling. Yes,
I want to go to Disney. Like, hello, we're gonna
I
give you
know.
the money for that. Does that build trust? I didn't understand her.
No, like, what are you trying to do here?
Yeah, if anything, that makes me more suspicious. Like, she started like crying already. Like, we haven't even gone through the challenge. We haven't gone through the round table. She's already crying and like giving these excuses as to why she should like stay for the money. Yeah, I thought that was very, again, another instance of her like weird, poor gameplay, in my opinion.
Yes, I totally agree. And I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like they're filming. I don't know. I guess it would be a lot to do a challenge and a round table and a murder all in one day, but it feels like at least like what are they? Maybe on day 6, realistically, if they're not on day 3. Like, you're really out here crying about going to Disney. I don't know. It just seems weird. Like, you're not. There's only been 3 people now gone, and you're saying you deserve the money because you want to go to Disney. It's like, okay, let's like wait a little bit until you
Yeah,
get a little deeper in the game. I don't know. She was really doing a lot for me.
agreed.
Too much. Moving on to the challenge. As we saw in the preview from last week, we get another challenge that we've already seen before. It was the laser light challenge, where
Hmm.
the goal is to steal art from a room and maneuver through the security lasers without getting hit by the laser. And each piece of art that you're stealing is worth a specific amount of money. Any thoughts about this challenge specifically? I mean, we don't need to go through every person's result, but I thought the 2 minutes to strategize was kind of interesting. I don't recall if we saw that in the US
Hmm.
where they gave them 2 minutes in advance to kind of strategize who went first. But
Hmm.
I took a couple of notes here, but nothing super consequential took place in this challenge, in my opinion.
Um, yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I don't remember the 2 minute, discussion of who should go first. I do think it was funny that like Fierce and Mai and Crystal were just like, let me go
Yeah,
first. And then 2 out of 3 of them flopped right away. So,
right away.
and we were just discussing, or Kuzi, whatever the traders were discussing, we're going to target people who flop. So I was just like, uh-oh, this might not be good for these people moving forward. Doesn't seem
Hmm.
like that it's going to have any issue with their games. But at first, when I was watching the challenge, that was my first thought, like, uh-oh, we already said this strategy. Melissa said it to multiple people now. So
Yep.
is this going to be like a problem for Fierce and Mai, who, were so vocal about wanting to go first and wanting to succeed, etc.
Totally. And I feel like we got a lot of insight into maybe how these people view themselves in this challenge or just like the ego. I specifically wrote a note about Kevin
Oh my
Martin where
God,
he took
yes.
the biggest statue of everything and everyone was like, don't take the statue, Kevin, don't do it, don't do it. It was worth $5,000. It was probably worth the most out of everything.
Mhm.
And he hit the laser immediately. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, the ego on this man. I mean, you can't help but like him because of his ego, I think. But like, also, it's like, come on, dude, what are you
Same.
doing?
Yeah, I
What are
wrote
you
in my
doing?
notes, I'm like, are you trying to be a target here?
Right.
Like vocal and loud and just, like let's tune it down a bit.
Exactly. Um, I thought Melissa's strategy was pretty good, actually. Melissa B. Oh, I'm sorry, not Melissa B. Who took the sword? Someone took a sword. Crystal. Crystal went third, I think,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
she like crawled under. She was like army crawling basically, and
Mhm.
she actually had an interesting strategy where she was like, I'm going to pick something that's close to the host, which she actually called her the host instead of saying her name, which I thought was interesting. And so she wouldn't have to maneuver across the whole thing with something in her hands. And I was like, that's actually really smart. And she was the first person to make it across that we saw. I don't know if we saw
Yeah.
everything in order, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a strategy that I would go for in this challenge.
Yeah.
It's probably worth the least, but let's all the people who can get all the things there, because it seemed like by the end of the challenge there were still some things
Yep.
close to the end of the main or the laser. So
Yeah.
I think everyone should have started there and then slowly start moving back, and then like with if Kevin's thing was still around, then you go for the 5K one.
Yeah.
Let's try to make as much money as possible. So I do agree. I think that was a smart strategy from Crystal.
Yeah, and I think even if it's not worth a lot of money, at least you're not taking time off the clock. So if you can get those
Sure.
things, start racking up more money for your pot, then like okay, at the end, take the big stuff. If you get it, great, you're racking up even more money. But if you lose a couple of minutes, maybe closer to the end, it's not as consequential. I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
Mhm.
Um, Melissa actually went for a huge knight statue, and she ended up making it through, which I thought
Yeah.
was pretty impressive. And Kuzi, said she wanted to put the attention on someone else who performs poorly, which means like
Mhm.
she would have to perform really well. And she did. She made it across, which was great. Shout out to Kuzi. And I did take a note here too that like generally the challenges seem to have more weight with this cast specifically. Like they seem to be paying attention to the results. They seem to be paying attention to who's doing well, who's not, which I think makes them at least a little bit more interesting for us to watch, because then it means like they actually might have a consequence at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I felt that way as well.
Yeah.
Two people that I did want to mention, just because, you know, when I watch these reality TV shows, I also want to start like liking these people. So someone who I really liked in this challenge was Rick. I thought it was really funny watching Rick crawl, and like it was just, I don't know, something about Rick's energy, the GRs he was giving. I don't know. I'm really like, I think we actually talked about this last week. That,
Yes,
like,
we did.
Rick seems like he's going to be a fun character. And I think in this episode, he solidified it for me more. Like, he was really fun in the challenge. And I don't know, he's giving me entertainment. So I feel like after this challenge, I like Rick even a little bit more. So I hope he sticks around for a bit.
Me too. I like Rick's vibe. I think he's giving us good TV. I'm enjoying him every time he's on the screen. Like I feel like he's always saying something that I'm listening to, which I can't say the same for everybody else. And he's made a character out of himself. The other person I wrote a note about was, well, I wrote two notes. I wrote Mickey, who tied his bun under his chin and took his pants off, which I'm like, all right. I mean, I guess if you have baggy pants on, that's a pretty good strategy because your pants might hit the laser, but he got caught like almost right away anyway. And Donna, who was like crawling, like just like in and out, like dipping, dodging laser. She was like all over the place. And I was like, okay, Donna.
Yeah, Donna ate the challenge. I was like, okay, good work.
She did.
No, I just want to say Mickey was the other person I want to talk about. The pants off thing was a mess for me. And then, I don't know, I wrote down, he's giving me big like Lochte vibes from US1.
Yes.
Where there's just vibes in his head. Like there's no thoughts, no game strategy. He's just there for the vibes, to have a good time. And you know what? That's okay, Mickey, if that's what you're there for. But that's the vibes we're getting from Mickey after this challenge.
I'm getting those vibes from Mickey too. And I'm also getting, I don't know if you watched The Mole on Netflix, but he's giving me Will vibes from The Mole. Maybe physically. Yeah, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched The Mole, but yes, he was. Oops. It's all right. It's like 2 years old. Yeah. And he, I don't know, just when he like took his hair down and like tied it up under his chin and was talking in the confessionals, I was like, oh, he's kind of giving me like Will a little bit.
I see it.
Yeah. Overall, the team won $10,000 worth of art. So I was trying to see if they gave us an idea of what the total prize pot is. I guess I could do very quick math, but they got $10,000 in this challenge. I think the first challenge was $20K from the first episode, maybe, and then the last one was $6,000. So 36,000, give or take a little bit, if I'm remembering correctly, is what they have to win right now. So I'm going to keep track if they give them free money at the end of this, because then that really means it means nothing. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Anything else challenge related?
No, that's all. Yeah, those are the people I wanted to really talk about.
Yeah. All right. Well, post challenge, Kuzi has her eye on Rick, our guy Rick. I'm worried for him. He pushed Colin really hard. He was totally sure that Colin was a traitor. And interesting enough, I think we also said this last week that we were a little bit worried for Rick because he went so hard. But Mai said something like along the lines of she hasn't seen Rick talking in huge groups, which I don't know if that's like pro Rick being a traitor or against. Like, does that mean Rick is a traitor, or does that mean Rick is a faithful because he's not talking in huge groups? I don't really know what that means. But she called that out. But it seems like there's a lot of suspicion about Rick. His name's floating out. Fierce says if they're right about Mel B, then they're right about Rick, because Rick was really defending Mel B. So it seems like if Mel B is a traitor, then Rick is definitely a traitor, which makes me concerned for Rick for next week.
I agree.
Those are really the two, well, or so we think, the two names out there at the beginning of, this post-challenge pre-roundtable moment. But we do see a little bit of, I guess, like a rift between Crystal and Mel B. And then we see Mel B just like kind of losing it and going around to everybody. Mike tells Mel B that her name is out there and he's going to try and deflect off of her or like protect her a little bit, and push onto Crystal. So what did you think about all of this back and forth? I think we saw a lot of like Mel B talking to everybody. We saw Leroy saying like, I would be stupid to think that you're not a traitor at this point, even though I'm not 100% convinced. Like, I do think it's probably you. Do you think Mel B helped herself here, or do you think her gameplay was just continuing down the path that it was continuing?
So again, for me, this was another moment for me where I think Mel B was not playing this game well. You see Kuzi putting this like fuel to the fire about Rick.
Yep.
Rick would be the person that I'm gonna start dropping names of. Not Crystal, who I have a good relationship with.
Right.
If I have a good relationship with a faithful as a traitor, I'm gonna, nurture this relationship and keep them around as long as I can. So the fact that she started throwing Crystal under the bus, the one person who you say is your ally beyond the traitors, like, I was like, what are you doing here? There's fire on Rick. Throw Rick under the bus.
Yeah.
Rick loves to talk, So I thought that was very poor gameplay on her. And also, like you mentioned, like Leroy clocked her right away. He came up there. He's like, you're panicking. You're walking around in circles. You're going to everyone. You're saying names to everyone. And that's the vibes you're giving me. And I was like, yeah, Leroy's thinking exactly how I would think in that situation. That's exactly what Mel B's doing. She's just running around, saying a name, dropping, and then she's just not like saying anything of substance, which I think is really hurting her in this game. And yeah, targeting Crystal I thought was terrible gameplay.
I thought it was really bad gameplay as well. I agree with you 1,000%. Rick's name already has heat on it. Then throw Rick out there and say, like, if you hear what Fierce is saying, or if someone tells you what Fierce is saying, just say, like, okay, then vote Rick this week. And if he's a traitor, then get me next time. Because, like, he was the one that was pushing Colin, not me. I didn't really do anything specific to make you guys think it's me. So Rick did. Vote him. And then if he is a traitor, then I'm a traitor this week or whatever. Or you can, like, vote me out next week or whatever. Right. Which maybe it wouldn't be the best but, obviously she knows Rick isn't the traitor, so he's going to be faithful. Then it's like, okay, then maybe she's fine. But instead she just decides to turn on Crystal. And Crystal is saying that Mel B is acting strange because she knew her from before the traitors got chosen, and that she started acting differently after that. And she brings up a really interesting point where where Mel B is saying things like, oh yeah, well, tomorrow we should do this tomorrow. And Crystal's like, I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm just making sure that I'm still going to be here tomorrow. And I thought that was a really interesting pickup from Crystal, that Mel B is talking like future tense when everybody needs to be worried about either getting voted out at the round table or getting murdered if you're not a traitor. Only traitors would think they're going to be here the next day. So I thought that was really intuitive from Crystal that she picked up on that.
I didn't even clock that. That's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. That like that makes Crystal to me like a much more strategic person than, I was actually liking Crystal this episode. I thought she made a lot of great points. And I thought this episode ended with her on a good strategic route, even though she might not be on the best footing to survive killings from the traitors, because she's starting to make some connections. But the fact that she said that, the fact that you mentioned that makes me think, yeah, I agree. You should never be talking because you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. Right. So it was I'm shocked that Crystal caught on to that so quickly.
Yeah, I don't know with everything going on, I don't know that that's something I would have necessarily picked up on either. I mean, you really don't know how you're going to react in the game, but for her to pick up on that, I was super impressed because she's right. Like, and for Mel B to not think about that, it's just like, that's another tick in the box against Mel B for me. She tells Mike that she's going to put Crystal's name her name under the bus. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of mostly it. I think for me, going into the roundtable, I really thought it was going to be Rick and Mel B who were going to get the most votes. But then once this Crystal conversation started, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder if this is going to get any traction, which it actually kind of ended up getting some traction.
Yep.
Heading into the roundtable, Mike jumps in immediately and brings up Melissa and says,
what was that?
What is this? What is this? Do we think that they planned this? Like, is this a way to like say like, okay, I'm going to throw suspicion on you, but then like let you deflect it onto Crystal, or like what happened here?
Yeah, no, this, like when I was watching this, my mind was blown. Maybe you're right. Maybe that is their plan, but I think that is a terrible plan. They clearly did not run this by Kuzi, because I know Kuzi would have been like, y'all need to again, this is what I said last week. Allow someone else to bring your name up, especially if you're both traitors. Do not bring each other up, because guess what? Now Mike looks super sus if Mel B is a traitor, which she ends up being a traitor. Right. So that I'm maybe what you said is the only way to make sense of this, because when I watched it, I couldn't make sense of this play.
That's exactly how I felt about it. I'm like, this only makes sense if they planned this. And even then, I don't think it makes sense. But
It's a
like
bad
for Mike
plan.
to do this, it only makes sense if Melissa or if he and Kuzi planned to go against Mel B, then it made sense
Yes.
and she didn't know, or if he and Mel B planned it. But we didn't see either of those things happen. So I was just
Mhm.
like I was blindsided that Mike was
Same.
like, well, you're really overacting and all these people, blah, blah, blah. This was wild to me. This was
Yeah.
wild.
Just an absurd level of bad gameplay from Mike and
Oh,
Mel. I feel
absolutely
very bad
horrible.
for Kuzi in this situation. She is stuck with two traitors who are really not playing a good game, if you ask me.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Melissa immediately starts overacting. She's deflecting hard. She's like, really, thou doth protest too much, Melissa. You're doing a lot
Yes.
here, and I don't know if you need to do this much. And she goes, where did my name come from? How did it get out there? And Kevin immediately is like, me, I put it out
Heads
there.
up,
And I
Kevin.
loved this from Kevin. And he specifically said, I'll take credit for that. And I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
Good for you for claiming the credit because he's right. She's a traitor.
Yeah.
And when she eventually gets voted out, this puts Kevin in like such a prime spot, in my opinion. So I thought this was really, really great gameplay from Kevin to just be like, me, I did it and I'm taking credit for it. I did it.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the same thing I said. I said Kevin's eating right now. Even his explanation as to why he suspects Melissa was a great way to explain it. He
Yeah.
was, I didn't exactly get. I don't have it written down, but he was saying something along the lines as when everyone talks, we're trying to figure out who the traitor is, but when you talk, Melissa, you're just like moving pieces and saying names. You're not
Yeah.
actually trying to figure out who a traitor is. You're just saying. So I thought that was a great explanation that Kevin did, and I think I agree with you. Like the fact that Kevin claimed this is an bode very well for him moving forward in the game. And yeah, Kevin just did a really good job at this roundtable. For once,
Yeah.
him being like super loud and extra is gonna pay off for him in this game because he is not a traitor.
Totally. I know we were worried about him a little bit last week for
Yeah.
that, but this week I think he played it almost flawlessly. Like I don't really have anything to point to where he overplayed, but I think this to me I thought was great gameplay from Kevin. And Melissa said something to him along the lines of like, you're just trying to find reasons why I'm a traitor and you're not trying to find reasons why I'm a faithful. I'm like, yeah, because they're not trying to catch faithfuls, Melissa.
Yeah.
They're trying to catch the traitors. No one's saying like, oh, I think she's a faithful because of this. No, that's not the point of the game. It's to figure out who the traitors are, not who the faithfuls are. I don't know. This was a mess from Melissa. I feel like she just unraveled this whole episode.
Yeah, Melissa's in over her head at this point. That's the vibe I'm
Way
getting.
way over her head.
We thought it was Donna last week, but it's Melissa.
Yes. Yeah. Donna took a break this week.
Yeah.
She just ate at the challenge and then just sat back and let it all happen around her, where Melissa is just a mess. But speaking of messes, we also had Travon pushing Kevin. And I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? Loud and wrong once again. Why? I don't know. It's just, this whole roundtable just went off the rails to me at this point. There are a couple of people standing up for Melissa. Then Melissa throws Crystal under the bus. And then Goupier puts Mike's name out. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then Travon is like, we have to bring order to this. And I'm like, no, we don't. Nobody wants
keep
order
it
to
going.
this.
Say another name.
Yeah,
Throw
say
people
more.
else under the bus.
Keep saying more. Yeah.
No, I also want to bring up someone who we were talking about the first episode, who I think did poorly this episode. I thought
Yes.
Mai did a very bad job at this roundtable.
Me too.
She was getting very agitated, very like passionate, and unfortunately, she's very wrong.
Very wrong.
When you're very wrong about something, it's going to put a huge target on her. It's going to put a huge target on her. And I felt like in episode 1, she was saying, "I'm going to sit back and listen," and it's only episode 3, and she's already like speaking up and defending Melissa B. and I forgot whose name she threw under the bus, but I think
she threw Rick
agitated
and I wrote it down. She threw Rick and Crystal. What she said about Crystal was that before the door even opened for the last person to come in, she already was acting shocked. And Crystal was like, that actually didn't happen at all.
Yeah, Crystal was just shaking her head. Yeah,
she's like, nope, that's not actually not what happened. But I agree with you. I thought Mai, it's like almost like she's getting into her head too much to like really want to be a strategic gamer. So she's just like doing too much, where it's like, no, you really should sit back and listen a little bit more. Because even just like that conversation about Rick, well, I don't see him in big conversations a lot. So I'm like, okay, but like, does that mean he's a traitor or does that mean he's a faithful? Like, who would be having conversations in big groups? To me, I would say traitor would be more likely to have conversations in big groups, because then it's like, you know, you're letting everybody know whatever, like you're not hiding anything, or you're not trying to hide anything. Whereas if you're only in small groups, I don't know. It just seemed, I don't know. I don't really know what she was trying to get at a lot of the time here.
And then I also want to just talk about when she tried to defend Melissa B. She goes, "When I hug Melissa,
Oh my God,
I felt
yes.
her vibrations." And she goes, and I quote, "You can't act vibrations."
Oh, yes, you can't act vibrations.
When I tell you, Katie, that I like broke my neck and was like, "What? What does that mean?" Literally, what is this? Is literally her saying, "I'm living off vibes. Just the
Yeah,
vibes were
yeah,
wrong in this room." It's like she walked into the
yep,
room and said the vibes were off, but Melissa,
yeah,
your vibes are good. What
yeah.
is the
I
game going
literally
on?
felt your vibes. You
Yeah.
can't act vibes. Yeah.
Oh my,
Oh
my.
my.
I was so sad. I didn't think she would crash and burn like this on episode 3.
I didn't either. And it's also just strange to me because she came in pushing Rick. She was pushing Rick outside, and then she voted for Crystal. So I'm like, okay, you're
Yeah.
throwing Rick's name out, who could be a traitor still. You don't know.
Yeah.
You're defending Melissa, who is a traitor, but then you're voting for Crystal. Like, I don't know. You're just giving people reasons to murder you, in my opinion. Like, I don't know. It just, if I'm a traitor and Crystal puts out my name, Crystal puts out Rick's name, I'm voting Crystal because she's not saying Kuzi and she's not saying Mike. The people are going to think it's Rick. And if I want people to think it's Rick, I'm going to vote. I'm going to murder someone who's saying Rick's name. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. She said too much.
Agreed.
Way too much. Anything else when it comes to throwing names out?
I thought actually, someone who now is on my radar as a potentially good player, or maybe this was bad, but I can't pronounce his name. Gerpier.
Yeah, I wrote it as Gerpier. I'm not 100% sure. I've only heard it like in like a split second, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly or not. But
so
yeah,
I apologize to everyone listening. I'm sorry for saying his name wrong.
Me too. We'll
but
get it
I am
next
going to
week.
praise him because I was very shocked at how he clocked Magic Mike. He was the only one at the table saying, "Oh, Magic Mike, you've been acting sus. Like, I think it's you." So now he's on my radar as like a player to watch. Who in the past 2 episodes, I feel like he literally said nothing. So I'm curious to see where his game goes from here. I am a little scared for him, because he is clocking a trader correctly. So that could put him at risk. But yeah, I really enjoyed. I thought now my eyes are on him as someone to watch from the faithful side.
Yeah, me too. And we got some more from him too at the end of the episode, which we'll talk about when we get there. But I thought it was all good stuff coming from him.
Good reads.
Yeah, definitely good reads. It's time to vote, and we go into the vote. We have no real consensus here. The roundtable's been a mess so far. My vote's for Crystal, even though she was pushing Rick. Trevon does not want to vote Mel, so he votes Kevin. And a big thing at this roundtable, which I think is interesting because it kind of doesn't really make sense in this game, is that people are like, I don't want to go with the mob mentality. So I'm voting. And I'm like, you should want to go with the mob mentality. If it's not on you, save yourself. You don't need to take a moral stance here against the mob mentality. The mob mentality is going to be what gets these people out of the game. And you need to all land on a traitor at one point anyway, or a faithful, whatever. Someone's got to go. And if you keep saying, I don't want to be part of the mob mentality, then the mob mentality is going to switch around and come one day to you and get you out. Like, you need to be, in my opinion anyway, I don't know, but I feel like, why be the person who wants to take a stand away from the group that's all voting one way? Be part of that group so you don't look suspicious. Especially because these people voted or standing up for Mel B, and she ended up being a traitor. So now you guys are going to look super suspicious because you just didn't want to go along with the group. For what reason?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Especially early on in the game, like there's so many people left. There's no need to, it's not the most. I mean, so as a viewer, I'm enjoying these people who want to go against the group. Don't get me wrong, everyone. But if I were in the game, I'm going to follow the lead for a bit until I can, for some concrete reason, get everyone's backing to target one person, which is like what Kevin did. Kevin has played this game so far pretty well these past 3 episodes. He wanted to target Mel B. He started it early. It caught fire. And then at the round table, he was like, it was my idea. Like, that's how I feel like you have to play the game. If you're going to target someone, you have to make sure that you have the numbers behind it. So I think I would go with the mob unless I can get enough numbers to target said person. So
right.
I agree with you. Bad gameplay, but good TV.
Very good TV. Yes, very good TV. And there was also even a clip too from somewhere at one of Kevin's confessionals saying like, if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like such an ass
He
or
did
whatever.
say
And I
that,
just thought that was like, yeah, you would have, because you were pushing her really hard. Luckily, you're right. Yes, Trevon votes Kevin. Mel B votes for Crystal. Kevin, interestingly, says, I've been sure of this vote, but listening to you talk actually like did move the needle a little bit, but he did end up voting for Mel B, which I thought was really interesting because I didn't think Mel B did a great job at this
At
round
all.
table.
She did no service, in my opinion.
Yeah, but for Kevin, who's been pushing her since the beginning, to feel a little bit swayed by her, I thought that was interesting. Gerline, and again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. I'm sorry. We'll get it once they're featured more closely, more prominently. Voted for Melissa. Fierce voted Mel B. Mike voted for Mel B, and then gave a laundry list about her body language. And I'm like, my guy, what are you doing? What are you doing?
We need to talk about this because I also was like, so he gave a speech. I don't know for what reason.
Huge speech.
All I wrote down was, Mike, I'm sorry, Mike, but just shut up and vote. Like you're digging. I feel like Mike is digging a grave because he's like saying, Melissa, this is why I'm going to vote for you. But then in the same breath, he throws Crystal under the bus, and then ends up voting Melissa. So the whole thing was roundabout way to end up voting Melissa. That just, in my opinion, puts all eyes on you. You know, so I thought that was a very bizarre gameplay on Magic Mike's part.
I thought so too. Not so much magic from Mike here. I don't know what was going on.
Illusion.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. He was trying to do some kind of illusion. He played an illusion on himself, I think. I don't really know what was going on. And I thought this part was a little bit interesting because I think, and I tried to count the votes, but like, I don't know, math is not my strong suit, so I didn't. But I feel like, and I don't know if my math is wrong. Like I said, I didn't actually like prove it out, but it feels like if Kuzi, who did end up voting out Mel B, and Mike voted for Crystal, we might have had enough votes to get Crystal out at the end of the day if Trevon didn't vote for Kevin. If I think there's someone else that just like threw a vote somewhere. I'm just trying to look and see. Mickey voted for Rick. I don't think I wrote down Rick. Oh yeah, Rick voted for Mel. I don't know. I think it could have been a little closer if Kuzi and Mike had Mel's back, but I think at the end of the day, they probably saw her as just a little bit too much of a liability. But it did seem closer than I thought. Oh, Donna voted for Kevin also. Okay, Donna. Like these people voting for people who, why are you doing this when you don't know who the traitors are? Why are you throwing votes when you don't know? You could get murdered tomorrow because Kevin could be a traitor, and I don't know. It's just a mess. Or you could get murdered by the traitors because then they could pin it on Kevin. Like it just is, I don't know. People are not thinking. They're not using their common sense here.
I agree. I just looked it up. So Melissa got 9 votes.
Okay.
So
9 votes out of how many people?
At this
or how
point,
many
we have
votes
18,
total?
but she got half the votes.
So if Kuzi and Mike
could have
voted her way, they could have swayed. But the other votes weren't all locked on one person is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Funny enough, and this happened in US 1. I remember when they voted out Christian. If Serena and I forgot who the other one was.
Cody.
If they would have voted the other, if they would have voted the other way.
Ari,
yes, because Cody was gone by then. They could have saved Christian, but they didn't. So this was another instance where, well, she probably would have. Maybe if they voted Crystal. Too much math. Yeah, I agree with you, Katie.
Yeah,
but
I was like, oh, okay, I think. And then once the votes started going all over the place, I was like, all right, forget it. I'm not counting these. But I do think if they all had the other votes locked on Crystal, which they didn't, there is a world where Kuzi and Mike could have been the deciding votes, and they voted out Mel B, which, again, I don't think it's the worst decision, but she is a shield in front of them. She's the obvious traitor. Now she's gone, and I don't think Kuzi has any eyes on her, but Mike sure does.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to look it up, but Crystal got 4 votes only. So their votes still, Melissa would have still gone home. Yeah,
because Mickey voted for Rick.
Yes.
Trevon voted for Kevin. Donna voted for Kevin. Yeah. And then is there another thrown vote? Gerpier voted for Mike. Right. Which, again, a ballsy move.
Yeah, very ballsy. Which I like. That's why I like this guy so far.
I like it from him because he's right.
Yeah.
And so, to me, because he got the traitors are not going to vote this man out because then it would be totally obvious that it's Mike. But if I'm voting for Kevin and I'm totally wrong and I'm a traitor, or well, I guess I wouldn't be a traitor because I'm voting. But like, if you voted for Kevin and I'm a traitor, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of Javier because he voted for Kevin. Kevin's a faithful. They won't think it's me. They'll think it's Kevin. So this could put Kevin out in front. So I don't know. I feel like I'm not speaking that eloquently enough to make it make sense, but I do think that could have put the two of them in a little bit of a sticky situation. Now, though, I do think after this roundtable, well, we get Melissa leaving. She gives like a tearful little speech, and then she's like, "I'm traitor," and everyone's like, "Ah!" They're celebrating. They're freaking out. Mike, especially, is like celebrating again, overly celebrating, boastful. This man is boastful. And my main takeaways from this is that Kevin is an amazing spot now. I think Kevin is like in the best spot of all the of all the faithfuls. I think he took credit for the move. He was right from day one. He knew there's no reason why from day one, as soon as the blindfolds came off, this man was pushing Melissa's name, and he was right. And there's really no reason why he would do that if he were a traitor. So good for you. I think he totally cleared any suspicions off himself, if there were any. Who knows? We'll see what Trevon has to say next week. This man is loud and wrong once again. Fierce is dialed into Rick and Mickey. They both threw votes on each other, which doesn't really make any sense. I don't know why they did that. And Gerpier is putting some thoughts into why he voted the way that he did. And he's feeling like, okay, if I say it in front of witnesses, at least people know I said it. If I get murdered, they'll know, like, I voted for Mike. This is why I voted for him. And I thought that was a good strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought it was noble of him when he said, if I go out, at least you guys get an inkling of who the traitor is. But, I agree. I think if you're going to be bold enough to throw someone's name out, the best place to do it is where everyone is watching, as opposed to like, in the side group and then hearsay. So, I agree. If you have those, I don't think I would have played the game that Gerpier is playing. Even if I'm unfaithful, just for the fear of, I would wait until I don't know, if I were to play this game, I would just wait for someone else to say a name and then go with it until I can 100% make sure that this person's going to be the target. And, luckily Magic Mike I think he can easily become a target. So hopefully this doesn't backfire on Gerpier. But I do think it was very, like I said, it was a very ballsy play, and hopefully it works in his favor.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it. I don't know that I agree with you. I would play the same way, but I do like that he's going around saying, like, I voted this way. If I go, why. And, even Kuzi is saying, like, he's starting to become maybe a little bit of an issue. But cut to the deliberation. We do learn that we can invite another traitor to be part of the traitors, or there could be a murder. We get left on a cliffhanger, but it's one or the other. You could either accept to bring another traitor in, Kuzi and Mike, or they can murder someone. And I'm kind of feeling like Gerpier could make a good traitor.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think now would be a good time to get someone like Gerpier on your side.
Yeah.
Because they can't murder Gerpier. Like, Gerpier's going to survive at least for another 2-3 weeks. So it's either get him on your side or have him get more or collect more information and actually become a big threat for the traitors. Then they have to, So I think, I'm not sure if I feel they're going to, I don't know which lane they're going to go. I think they're going to be recruiting, just because I feel like that's good TV. So they're going to end up recruiting someone. But we'll see. I'm very curious to see which path. I don't feel like the edit has given me a strong leaning either way.
No, me neither. And I'm kind of struggling, and I want to know your opinion too. Like, do you think it's a better move for them to murder someone, or do you think it's a better move for them to bring a traitor in?
So I think that, I was thinking this, I'm leaning towards I would probably murder someone this week, and then recruit someone the week after, just because I'm just thinking of in Traitors in the US version, when they recruited someone, I feel like it ended up backfiring on the traitors, because I think that's like when Christian like blew up his game or whatever.
Oh my God. When he was like, they recruited me and I said no.
Exactly. And they had just recruited Ari, I think.
Yeah.
I just feel like Magic Mike is the type to say something wild after they recruit someone and no one goes home. And so I think just the fact that Magic Mike is in this duo of traitors left, I don't know. I think it'd be smarter to kill someone off. So another like random person who hasn't said much, and then continue suspicion on someone like Rick, let Rick get voted off, and then recruit Gerpier or someone else the week after. That's probably the way I would handle it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I kind of, again, the edit doesn't really give us much in
Yeah.
one way or another, but I kind of feel like these two are a little bloodthirsty and they're like, it's just the two of us, we did it, Melissa was a liability, and now it almost feels like they feel good with each other,
Hmm.
where bringing in a third person can be a liability. Also, you don't know if they're going to say yes or no, and then that's just a person that has information that other people don't have, and you don't know if they're going to say like they recruit, they could blast it to the group, they could not.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It almost feels like at this point, this is the earliest, at least in the seasons that I've watched personally, that we've seen a traitor go out. It's only episode 3. It's only the
Hmm.
second roundtable. I don't know that we've seen a traitor get recruited this early. So I don't know. It just feels a little early to bring a third person in. Like I feel like they're going to have to read these people a little bit more before they
Hmm.
can trust that it's someone that they want to work with. So I have a feeling they're going to murder.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that because that's what I would do. So yeah, I would
Yeah.
lean towards that. I do think it would be interesting to see what what would happen. I don't know if this happened in one of the international versions you've seen, but if they do recruit someone and the person says no, how that person would play the game moving forward. Because we saw, even though Christian was a traitor in US 1, he basically tried that gameplay where
Yeah.
he was like, they tried to recruit me, but they failed, and then all
Hmm.
eyes were on him. So I wonder what that gameplay would look like for someone who did get
We
recruited and then
have
the actual
seen
fake.
that happen in some of the
Okay.
international versions.
Was it like good
Um,
TV?
yeah, it was good TV, and they, I won't say which version it was, but and it's been a little bit since I watched it, but they did definitely spill that they were asked to be a traitor. They were,
Okay.
so I think it would be good TV either way. I think probably
Mhm.
the worst TV would be just to murder someone, but I do have a feeling that is the way that they might go here, unless like production is like this is your
Yeah.
only chance, because I'm interested to see like if they do murder someone, will they get this opportunity again at the next, like
Sure.
after the next roundtable? I'm not sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, this was a fun episode. Do you have any other, did we not cover anything? Are there any final thoughts before we sign
Yeah.
off?
There's one thing I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
So this was like post roundtable, they were all discussing again before the murder, like post roundtable before the murder.
Mm-hmm.
We see again, I want to talk about my girl Mai because
Oh, yeah.
Mai she said something smart, but then so Mai was essentially, she was talking to a few people, and she says, I knew that Melissa B was a traitor, but like you said, she was one of the people saying I didn't want to go with the majority. But for me, that was like another moment of my, yes, you're like understanding your own game, like why what you did was wrong,
Right.
but then you're verbalizing, and is that
Yes.
something you want to be verbalizing to a group of
No.
people? And I feel like that brought, again, this was another moment for me where I really think Mai is spiraling. And in the previews, we see that I think Mai's gonna Donna level spiral in episode 4 based on the preview.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that was another time where I was like, Mai, you are correct, but you should have said that to yourself in the DR, then tell everyone you basically told everyone that I played this very poorly. So
Yeah.
I thought that was weird gameplay on her side.
Yeah, we got a lot of weirdness from this episode. I think if I'm a faithful, Mai's on my list of people who could
Hmm.
possibly be a traitor,
Yep, I
because she
agree.
defended Mel so much, and then you're right, like admitted, like, oh yeah, no, I don't know. Rick and Mickey probably are on my list because they were just throwing votes.
Hmm.
So those maybe are your two other traitors that are just voting for each other. Um, I think those are probably my main picks as traders.
I would also throw
Depending on
Mike
what
in.
happens.
I
Yeah,
would
I
throw
think Mike
Mike.
too. I think because we know Mike is acting really shady. I don't know if everybody else other than Gerpier is picking up
Sure.
on it, but yes, I think my spidey senses would be up about Mike too
Hmm.
at this point.
Yeah.
Our girl Kuzi though, in a great spot, and
Yeah,
so is
Kuzi
Kevin.
is eating. I'm very happy. I hope this continues. That's another reason why I kind of hope that they don't recruit, because I think Kuzi's in a very good spot right now. And
Yeah.
I feel like recruiting someone can put you in a bad spot. So maybe for Kuzi's sake, it's also not a good idea to recruit. So Kuzi, don't do it yet. It's already
Yeah.
been recorded, Kuzi, but hear me out. Don't recruit anyone yet. I like the
Yes.
gameplay.
Yeah, I like the gameplay too, and like that also opens you up to maybe Mike wants to work with this other person and throw you under the bus. Like that could give them a majority against one
Yeah.
person who's a traitor. I think stick with the two for now while you can. At least that gives you, like, Mike doesn't have any additional power over you.
Mhm.
You can give it a little bit of time before you see who you could trust. Let Mike bury himself a little bit more, and then we'll see what happens. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
How are you feeling about the cliffhangers now that it's week 3 of cliffhangers?
Um, you know, I'm not hating it because at least we're getting a murder and an eviction every episode. So I've just come to accept it. And I'm not hating it. I feel like because I'm just enjoying the season, and I feel like we're getting a lot of good TV from a lot of different people. So for some reason,
Mhm.
it's not bothering as much. I feel like if this was the US version where I was like annoyed all the time at the Faithfuls,
Yeah.
then I probably would be like, don't give me a cliffhanger. But I'm enjoying the ride so far. So I think that's probably why I'm not that annoyed. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. It gives me something to look forward to. We're getting the whole
Exactly.
episode was entertaining to me, aside from like, the parts of the challenge that are just like inconsequential, fine. But even again, like this challenge, I feel like Kuzi was thinking strategically heading into it. There were like little bits that we could pull out. And I don't know. I don't really mind it that much that we're not getting another episode. Give me 2 episodes a week, maybe like a Monday and a
Yes.
Thursday or something.
Well,
Then I would be a little happier. I think all the international versions give us at least a few episodes a week rather than just one.
mhm.
But I don't know. I'm okay with it. I feel like the episodes have been meaty enough where I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to watch next week.
Exactly. I fully agree. And
Yeah.
again, they're giving me a good preview. Like, I'm not
The
gonna lie, I'm
previews, I know.
excited to see my spiral more. I was
Yes.
rooting for her, but
Jesse in the chat says Mai
oh
looks to
look
be
at that,
self-imploding
yeah.
from the preview. And yes, she does. And Travon is giving us mess in the preview too. And I'm like, oh my
Yes.
God, what is happening here? So I'm excited. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see what we get on Monday.
Exactly. So the previews are keeping me also on the edge and excited for the next episodes, which I think is really important with these type of, with just TV in general. You want to keep the audience going, and they're doing it so far. So I'm excited.
Yes, me too. Um, okay, cool. Well, if nothing else, Javier, we'll start closing out. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so everyone, you can find me at underscore the Starboy on Twitter. I am there sharing all my thoughts about all my favorite reality TV shows and anything in between. Of course, catch me here on Sign the Traitors every week. I'll be back with Katie. We'll hopefully have some special guests coming up to chat some more about the Traitors. Catch me on Love is Blurry here on Silent Podcast, where we discuss Love is Blind. We're going to discuss the finale, the reunion, and everything. Hopefully, this week I'll be on with Isaiah. So catch me there as well to hear my thoughts on the finale because this season was a hot mess.
Yeah, I'm not caught up yet. I have to binge and catch up.
Yeah, it's
But all
something.
I've been hearing is that it's been a disaster of a
A
season, which
disaster,
makes
yeah.
me excited to watch it. So well, you can find me at Real Slim Katie on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Real Slim Katie with an underscore. You can also find me here on Silent Podcast talking all things Big Brother on Fridays with Isaiah and Josie and all of the exciting guests we've had on this season, Javier being one of them, on Bounce Checks. We have maybe something exciting next week, in 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know what day it is coming up, so stay tuned for that. We'll announce it soon. And you can also catch me talking all things Real Housewives and all other shows on Bravo with Carrie on Pod What Happens Live. We're on a mini hiatus right now. We'll be back this week, but again, off next week. Carrie has a lot going on in just life, all good stuff. She's booked and busy, but that means podcasting goes on the side for a little bit. But good thing is that Bravo's on all the time, always. So when we can, we'll be here. And yeah, for Silent Podcast, let me flash this graphic up on the screen and show you all, if you're watching us live on YouTube, check out where you can find us. You can follow us on Twitter at silent_podcast if you want to keep up with every time we go live and what we're working on these days. You can follow us on YouTube and subscribe by searching Silent Podcasts. We're also on Twitch at Silent Podcasts. You can also check us out on all of the audio platforms where you can find your podcasts. We're everywhere. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on YouTube Podcasts, we're on Pocket Casts. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, you should be able to find us. So definitely check us out there, subscribe, like and comment and rate us wherever you can on the podcast apps. Give us 5 stars. That really helps us with the algorithm and helps us get discovered. And yeah, that's it. Oh, and Patreon. If you would like to support us, check us out at patreon.com/silent podcasts and check out our Discord. If you need a link, hit us up at Twitter. We'll shoot it over to you. And we're hosting watch parties for Traitors Canada every Monday. So pop in if you are having trouble finding where to watch Traitors Canada. The Discord is a great place to do it. So thank you all. And we will be back next week with episode 4. Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.